Howdy, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. Today marks the first episode of a new series I'm hoping to do where I'm interviewing local producers and talking to them about the projects they've made, what's brought them to KHM, and what motivated them to make the story and make the media that they did. So my first guest today from the Monrovia Film Festival is Todd Burleson. Hey Todd, how you doing today on a Friday?
I'm great, Garrett, thank you.
This is good.
How are you?
It's Friday. It's Friday. Todd, you entered the Monrovia Film Festival in 2023, and you submitted your directorial debut of a film called Nana. Tell us a little bit about Nana and tell us what it's about.
Well, Nana is it's about redemption. It's about revenge and justice. Mm-hmm. But underneath all of that is a story about how love conquers all.
Okay.
So what we do is we are introduced to a 90-year-old woman who has recently lost her only son, and now she only has her grandson to care for, or him to care for her. And the grandson, Paul, ends up finding some information about how or why his father may have been killed or really murdered.
Oh.
And he wants to do something about it. So Nana's maternal instincts kick into high gear because she knows that Paul is dealing with things that are way over his head. So she does what any maternal grandmother would want to do, and that's try to save his life. So what we do is we follow Nana on a particular day to see how far she will actually go to save his life. And that is what Nana is about.
Gotta say, I was there and I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed Nana. I got a good laugh out of everyone in the theater. Now, the way you lead up the explanation of Nana is so funny to me because you're like, it's revenge, it's redemption, it's there's a murder. I'm like, oh, this sounds like a really grisly film. And you're like, then we meet this 90-year-old woman, and there's love, and so it can be a curious thing to describe because the movie definitely lands in the dark comedy genre. What drew you to dark comedy as your first movie?
Well, at first, when I first read the script, I didn't think of it as a dark comedy. I thought of it as a straight drama because I know the backstory. Backstory is that this 90-year-old woman, when she was in her 20s, was a hired assassin.
Okay.
So that's why I kind of thought of a drama. I was going to try to continue this as a drama. But then I thought about it a little bit more, and I thought the audience really wouldn't relate to a 90-year-old woman doing all of these, killings or whatever.
Sure.
So I knew I had to lighten it up, loosen things up a little bit. And so when I originally thought of Nana as the assassin, I thought of like Mitch Rapp, the character from the Vince Flynn novels, or you could even think of Liam Neeson from the Taken series.
Right.
A man with a certain set of skills.
Right. A much more hard line in that way, of course.
Exactly. So Nana is this woman who has a certain set of skills.
Sure.
However, she's a senior citizen with a certain set of skills, an elderly woman with a certain set of skills. And I thought in order to pull that really off, I had to lighten things up and make it a little bit more of a comedy. So when I thought of dark comedies, one film that came into mind was the movie Fargo, the Coen brothers' dark comedy, Fargo.
Right.
What made me think of the similarity to that was you have this very pregnant woman who has her resources are limited. Her physical resources are limited because she's very pregnant. Her emotional resources may be limited. And she lives in a rural town, so that maybe limits her as well. Nana is 90 years old. She gets around town on a walker. She uses public transportation, and yet she has to go out and try to hunt down, find, and kill 3 guys all at the same time. Her resources are limited too. So that kind of made it lighter. And that was kind of the direction that I wanted to go in.
In that narrative, you're touching on a lot of themes that I found very interesting. Revenge, redemption, which, as I said before, is pretty hardline stuff. especially compared to those other movies you were describing. But how did you manage to keep it light? What is that message of love that's bleeding through your film that still allows us to laugh at the nature of the bizarre and grisly ways that Nana isolates and eventually assassinates her targets, but we're still rooting for this character. We're not sitting there going, gosh, someone stop her. We're going, yeah, this is funny.
I would like to surprise them. Where's the party?
What made you strike that balance?
Well, I definitely wanted to stay grounded in redemption and revenge.
Okay.
But I also wanted to balance it out a little bit with love and with the maternal instinct that she had. So we see at the beginning of the film that Nana is cooking meals, for Paul. She's knitting him sweaters. And Paul is actually, in turn, coming to see her. He's doing this as a favor to his father that he would look after her. So what was important for me was to build a connection between the two. And that's what I was trying to do at the beginning, was make sure that there was a connection, because they really need each other, right? And so we see in one of the scenes when Paul finds out what's going on and he's pacing back and forth trying to figure out what he's doing, we focus on Nana. And she's sitting there, and she's hearing what he's saying, but she's also scared to death because she knows that he's going to get himself in trouble. And then she waits for the right moment, to jump in and say something, and to stop him. Think about it. Don't do this. And she even uses the words, "Trust in God." Right. So when they come back together the next day, or actually it's 2 days later when they come back together, and Paul is revisiting Nana, and he's like, what happened? They're all dead, and blah, blah, blah. She actually comes to say that, I told you that God would take care of it. So part of the love and part of the maternal instinct that I used also brought in faith as something that grounded everything. It was her faith in God to give her the strength to do what she needed to do. It was the faith in herself to be able to accomplish what she needed to accomplish.
And I think that I got that when I watched it, is that, Nana never goes like, oops, it's never punching down at, what really could have been like a, Paul Blart. No, she's doing this out of love, out of her conviction, and through that conviction, she loves her grandson. That's what kind of brings the protagonist into the action is, well, I can't lose my grandson to this conspiracy. And that's, and we see that life. You said they're making meals, she's making sweaters, and because of that life, you see the love that permeates through Nana's life. And that does keep it light. It keeps a smile on your face as she's choking the life out of some guy. So, speaking of Nana, what was it like casting Henriette in that role for the ubiquitous Nana?
It was a little challenging because, we didn't put any ads out in the papers or anything like that. We just were trying to find what we could find here locally.
Sure.
In Monrovia. And the writer, R.A. Grimes, bumped into her at the theater and thought she was perfect. And the funny thing about that was she thought it was a joke. Here is this elderly woman. Some guy approaches her and says, "Oh, I want you to be in a movie." So she really didn't take it seriously. But then he bumped into her again and then again. And finally, he talked about me and to direct her. And we all met at the local pizza parlor, Old Town Pizza. And we talked about it. And I think when she saw that there was a script and she saw that it was short, it was only 5 pages, and she saw the vision that I had for the film, she just jumped on board. She's a film lover, right? Always on the outside looking at the screen. Now this was a chance to maybe do something that she wanted to do when she was younger.
Oh, that's sweet. That's really sweet. So, from my understanding, not only did you guys, work so closely together, and then she slipped into that role like a glove, but you guys actually shot on site, on location with her at her house to kind of sell the environment. No, the setting was important. So what was that like, shooting in someone else's house and, basically trying to build the set to look just the way you wanted it to? What was that like?
We wanted to make her feel as comfortable as possible, so we wanted to make the surroundings as familiar to her as well, and so most of the things that we shot were in the kitchen and in the living room, which is where she spends most of her time anyway.
Yeah.
So we wanted just the whole atmosphere to be comfortable. This was her first film as well. She was a little nervous about what to do. She's never acted before, but all you need to do really is give a little direction to someone, give them a little push, and just tell them, react, don't act, just react to what's going on, and everything will be fine. And that's what she did, and she was a gem.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's a good way to put it. I did love that set. I loved that that setting, the her just knitting and and you had all like the religious iconography everywhere, kind of selling the like you're painting that. How about we go there?
Sure.
Do you want to head over now?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
Well, here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are, the ubiquitous location for your film, Nana.
Being that this was your first short film that you've ever made, what were some of those challenges?
Well, I would say scheduling was a challenge. Using the equipment was a challenge. And maybe even the confidence of the actors were challenging. We'll go with the scheduling first. This being my first time directing, I still have a day job.
Right.
And I had to work around my own schedule. But our protagonist, we have to work around her schedule. She's in every single scene. So what was really important for that was that we worked around her schedule.
Of course.
And which means we probably cannot do late nights, and we do have a lot of night shots, bus night shots, bus day shots and stuff. So that was a little challenging working around her schedule. We mostly worked on weekends only, and we didn't work every weekend. Believe it or not, it took this short 5-page film took about 8 months
Oh my gosh.
to shoot because we weren't able to shoot all the time. Like I said, just basically on weekends, and so that was a little bit challenging. Another thing was the use of the equipment. Now, I've used cameras before. I've even used high-end cameras before. But I was doing everything kind of all by myself, using the GH5 cameras as well as microphones. And sometimes things weren't working the way I was wanting it to work. So like maybe the sound wasn't on, and so when we went back to look at the dailies, you would see the picture, but there was no audio.
Oh, geez.
So we'd have to go back and reshoot it.
Right.
And stuff like that. You had those kind of issues. There would be times when we would shoot a scene, like this scene where Nana comes into the cabinet in the kitchen, and she grabs the tea, and she's kind of grinding up the pills, to make the poison injection.
Oh, yeah.
When I first shot that a couple of times, my car is sitting out in the front through the window.
Oh gosh.
And so when I saw that in the dailies, I'd have to go, we need to reshoot this.
Oh.
And so that was part challenging too. But I think lastly, you're dealing with first-time actors. And they don't know what they're doing. So they're really having to trust what I tell them. They're really having to trust the direction that we're going. Even though this is, a serious film, it's a light comedy, so just, kind of go with it. Once they kind of learned the direction that we were going, and I gave them the push, I think their confidence level kind of jumped up.
Of course.
So then it turned out to be really, really good.
First of all, I just want to say it does not look like an 8-month shoot. And I don't say that in a derogatory, it looks slapped together. No, I think it goes to show you saw something you needed to fix, and you took the time to do it, which is probably why, like you said, it took that long. And that's tough because a lot of first-time creators will shoot a lot of stuff, come back, look at it, and then like you experienced, there's some problems. And I go, well, that's why this scene is missing, or that's why, and it's like, they compromise. it's so important to know when to compromise, to be selective about what battles to choose. So you being like, okay, I've got a problem, I've got to fight scheduling, but I also want the scene to look great. Guess that's going to be a few more weeks of me trying to get this right. And that's great because you know that you have that power. The actors, right, you talk about like their experience on set and their experience engaging with material. Patience is so important, and an openness to give someone material, see them tackle it and go, oh, I wouldn't have considered that. You know, you brought it up earlier with Henriette kind of looking sheepish or suspicious when she's going through the car parts, and allowing yourself to be surprised. So it's patience, it's openness, and a diligence of just keeping at it, which we got to be honest, like not every creator has the time, the resources, or the privilege to be able to. Sometimes people only have 3 months to shoot their thing, and then they got to go back to work, or they got to go back to traveling home or something like that. But that is a topic I would like to cover in a little bit.
I want to talk about your favorite movie. Favorite. Well, that could be an interesting question. Favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, okay.
Favorite scene in the movie. Do you have an answer for that?
I thought, I could talk about maybe 3 little things, but
okay, what was your favorite to make? What scene was your favorite to make?
I really liked when her and Paul, when he was pacing back and forth. I liked that because
it's a good energy.
Yeah, there was a lot of good energy. We created the shadows. We saw the shadows and how we moved that. That was a fun scene to do because it was Paul and Nana one-on-one, and there was the urgency. But I love the park scene as well, right? And then I love the cut from when he's strangling Robert to cutting to the outside and just the cars jumping. I think the car jumping is almost my favorite thing. Yeah. Just because you're not expecting it, and all of a sudden you're outside the car in a parking lot and there's daylight and someone's strangling someone in the car.
Speaking of the car, is that another moment where we sped it up?
I don't think we sped it up there, no.
But it looked really funny to see. I remember just sitting in the edit bay with you and just, you see, like, and just his head jumping back and forth. I'm like, this is incredible. And it's like, I finally remembered what it reminded me of. Because me and my dad, we love this scene. We're a huge sucker for adult adjacent humor in family films. And let me explain that. Where it's not like raunchy, where it's like, oh, that's a joke for the parents. It's like a joke that only the like patience and mannerism of an adult find funny. And it's, I don't know, have you seen Monsters Incorporated?
Yes.
Have you seen the short about Mike's new car?
No.
Oh my gosh. Mike gets this brand new car and it's like, oh, it's got all these gadgets, and he's showing it to Sully, and it's just a bunch of like slapstick comedy. And at one point he pokes the panic button and the whole car like springs to life, starts like flipping out, and the hood is opening and it's honking, and it cuts to like a super wide of just the car like flipping back and forth and someone just across the street just walking going, what the heck? Yeah. That's hilarious. We love that kind of humor where there's attention drawn to how ridiculous what you're experiencing is happening. And I think that's great. And I think Nana kind of feels like that most of the time. She's got the button. She blows up the car.
Yeah, it's funny about that. I thought it was cool that, remember how she was with a woman with a certain set of skills. So she was able to link the phone, to the bomb.
Right.
And then she had all this, it's almost, she had this like real complicated code that she had to put in to activate the thing, and we sped it up in the in the editing room, which made it more funny. It's funny when I think about that because, like, my grandfather, he doesn't even know how to do a CD player, and yet she's linking her phone to a bomb in the car. But I loved how we were in the editing room and we were playing around with that, And, she first was like going, bup, 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 bup. And we thought, let's speed this up a little bit more. And it just made it a lot more funny. I thought.
Oh, man, it was...
Something else about the car scene that I thought was neat was we used pantyhose, right, to strangle.
Yeah.
Right. The reaction from the audience was really cool for the car scene. First of all, when the mirror is there by itself, and then she rises up into the mirror, and everybody, there was like this ooh in the theater.
It got a few oohs, some people
Right.
laughing of like, oh yeah.
But she uses the pantyhose, and here's what's funny about that. My wife actually read an article about a taxi cab driver that was strangled by pantyhose.
Wow.
So it's a true story.
True story.
It can happen.
I love it when film has those like, why did you make this? I read something weird, and I knew I got to put it in a movie, and I love that. No, I think there's a lot of... I mean, you have that. You have poisoning a man with a syringe. Crazy, like stuff that I love. And I think it's a well-paced movie, too. Yeah. I'm no professional by any means, and I'm not even a great amateur filmmaker. But I have seen a lot of people that are like, this is my first movie. And it's like 40 minutes. Or it's like 5 minutes, and I couldn't tell you what happened. But I think it's like, what, 12?
14.
14, yeah. It's a pretty solid watch. It's not too short. It's not too long. And I think that the narrative choice that you make of like, we see, they're like, oh, they're all the targets are gone. Like, what happened? But we had seen bits and pieces of Nana's day, and it's just kind of building this tension of like, what's going on? And the payoff. Because I think a lot of filmmakers will, oh, I'm so smart, I can build tension, and then they don't pay it off. But I think you did really good with the script that I think was juggling a lot. And I know that every first person's movie, any movie honestly, has its share of obstacles. But you stuck the landing, if you don't mind me saying. I think you really stuck the landing.
Well, thanks, Garrett.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to say to any local producers out there that are wanting to get their start? What's a good piece of advice?
Well, for locals, for sure, KGM is a great place to start. It really is. Dave, the manager here, was very open to my idea and opened the door for all the resources. So it's amazing what you guys have available here.
And we're here right now.
Yeah, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
The camera equipment that I was able to use, the sound equipment that I was able to use, and the editing software that we used. It was all as long as no one else had rented it out.
Right.
It was available to me. You guys even have a green screen here. I did not need that yet. Maybe for my second film I'll start doing CGI, but but I did. But you do have a green screen here.
We
and
do.
So
We do.
it's really nice to be able to have that resource available to you as well. But I think it's great that KGM invites the community. I've been part of the community for 20 years. And that's what they want. They want us to come in and show art or to educate.
I think that's my favorite part about this place is, we cover a lot of community civic engagement. An incredible, important piece of our mission statement. I would say KGM is next to nothing without it, because inevitably when you make things for the community, you will start conversations about, well, how's the city government? How are the schools? So we have those recap shows, and I love them. But showcasing artistry is so important because it inspires other people to be like, oh, people will care about my stuff too, and I don't need to make it big in Hollywood to get that personal sense of validation. It's a great goal. I hope everyone does succeed in that struggle for fame and art, but ultimately, you have to learn to love your own art before you put it out there. Because if no one else is a fan of it, you have to be your biggest fan. And a good way to do that is to meet people in a grassroots environment that will go, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And that sounds a lot like how Nana got started and how Nana even got to where it got to. And I'm really excited that happened for you, and I'm really hoping that more people just like yourself can take that opportunity. So,
Final question for you. Final question. What were you hoping audiences were going to take away from their experience with Nana?
It's interesting that I have a religion or faith as a sub-theme of this film. The Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 13:13 says that there is faith, there is hope, and there is love, and that the greatest of these is love. And so what I was trying to ensure is that love endures through all things. Nana is motivated to the utmost to save her grandson because she loves him. Now, by no means do I want to encourage or say that the use of violence is a way to ensure that this type of love is accomplished, but simply that through love, all things hold together.
Awesome. It is very touching, and I will say, having been in the theater with all the people at the film festival watching it, I definitely felt like the audience had a good time, had a lot of laughs, and yes, I think you succeeded. I think at the end of that movie, everyone was really, really warmed by how sweet, silly, scary, but mostly how loving Nana is. So
yeah, I enjoyed Nana. I enjoyed the theater experience. I enjoyed being able to see, a whole festival where you what's up? You all right? What?
Oh, hi, boys. I made homemade cookies. It tastes good. Oh, look what I found. I forgot about them. You never know when you can use them.
Hello, I'm here now with Henriette, with Nana, and we're going to talk about a few things of her experiences on her first feature, my first feature, and to see what the whole experience was like for both of us. First of all, let me ask you, what was your favorite scene that we did?
Because I never really acted before, I kind of have a lot of favorite scenes. I like the one where I show my love to my grandson and how much he cared about me for taking over, what happened to his dad. I like the one where I was grinding the tablets because it kind of reminded me that I'm going to use that power to do something about revenge. I also like the one about the tour bus because I hadn't been in a tour since I was a young girl, and so that was a new experience, and it kind of brought back memories.
I loved when we did the night scene with that, and I told you you're tired, pretend like you're tired, and you did such a great job, like wiping your face and stuff. That was really neat.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this. For the longest time, you have been watching films, right? So this was the first time of actually doing any kind of acting.
For sure.
After you see what we worked on for the entire year, then you see it up on the big screen. How did that feel for you?
I was shocked that it took, like you said, almost a whole year, and that you could make a movie in 13 and a half minutes out of a whole year's time. I didn't realize that the movie industry worked that way. So that was a big eye-opener for me, yeah. Like I said, it was a new experience for me. People say you get 15 minutes of fame in your life, and I feel that this was my 15 minutes, yeah.
Well, speaking of that, we had talked before, and you had mentioned that when we started doing this, that you had told your grandsons that you were doing a movie. What did they say?
Yes.
What was the reaction?
So first I told my kids, and they didn't believe me. They looked at each other like saying, Mom's going through dementia. And then I told my grandkids, and my grandkids kind of went, whoa, something wrong with Grandma, So they did not believe me at all. that, at my age, that I would have been asked to do such a thing. Yeah.
Now, they were not able to come to the film festival. We gave you copies, though, and you got to show it to them.
Yeah.
Did you warn them, or did you say, oh, this is something I want to show you, or did you say, this is the movie?
Well, I did say, this is a movie I've been in.
Okay.
And it's still, I think they were kind of looking at me funny, but then when we shot the movie, then of course they knew for sure I was in it.
And what was
and
the
I was
reaction?
not, I was
You
not
weren't
going
crazy.
Yeah.
What was the reaction?
The reaction was they were laughing from beginning to end because, it was scenes that they knew that I would never do.
Mm-hmm.
I was never capable of doing such a thing. And so for them, it was more like a comic. It was just really funny. They laughed the most of the screen when I had the telephone in my hand and I went like this, and they laughed at because they knew I would never do that. That was something Grandma doesn't even know exists. Yeah,
Right.
So that was really funny.
You're this nice, lovable woman.
Exactly.
How could she do that?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Henriette, I want to tell you that this was my first feature film. It was a pleasure working with you. You made my first time out so easy, and I really thank you for your diligent work. It did take us a year. The main reason why it took us a year was because we couldn't shoot every day. We had to pick and choose our days. But I want to let you know that it was a blast for me, and you made my job so much easier.
Well, thank you so much, and I wish you the much, much, much success in your life.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye. It is a beautiful day.